It's good to see you today. Appreciate you joining us for another brief look into God's Word. Today is February 11th. Our reading comes from Exodus chapters 32 through 34. And as you can see, Exodus 32, it is the golden calf account. So we are into what is perhaps more familiar territory for us, but it's the golden calf. Moses is up on the mountain. The people saw Moses is delayed, and we know what happens. They come to Aaron, come make us gods that shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man who brought us out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him. It's a sad picture, frankly. So Aaron builds the golden calf, and then the Lord, of course, says to Moses, tells Moses what was going on. Moses comes down, sees it for himself after God said he was going to, frankly, smite everybody. Moses pleads with him not to do it. Verse 11 talks about that. Verse 12 as well. The Lord relented. Verse 14, Moses comes down, sees it for himself, breaks the tablets. Verse 19, took the calf that they made, burned it in the fire, and ground it to powder, scattered it on the water, and made the people drink it. Verse 20. Then he confronts Aaron, because Aaron had not restrained the people. Verse 25. Aaron's excuses are often spoken about. And then you have Moses drawing the line in the sand. Whoever is on the Lord's side, come to me. And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together to him. And he tells the sons of Levi, strap on your sword, and the killing would commence. And 3,000 people died that day. Moses intercedes, returns to the Lord. Oh, these people have committed a great sin. And verse 32, if you will forgive their sin, but if not, I pray, blot me out of your book. The Lord says to Moses, whoever has sinned against me, I will blot him out of my book. Now therefore go lead the people to the place of which I have spoken to you. My angel shall go before you. Chapter 33. You have the command to leave Sinai, and the Lord reminding them, you are a stiff-necked people. You have the tent of meeting. Moses takes his tent, pitches it outside of the camp so everybody would have to go out there. Called it the tabernacle of meeting. You have Moses, again, speaking with the Lord. And it's the account where the Lord is going to put him in the cleft of the rock. Verse 34, and the Lord had told Moses he was going to do that. Then you have the new tablets being commanded, the covenant renewed as well, and what they were supposed to do when they got to the promised land, namely destroy all those idols, tear them down, don't have nothing to do with them. And they needed to remember the covenant that they had. And then it speaks about the shining face of Moses. Moses comes down and he is glowing, and all the people are terrified, you don't say. They were terrified, and then it speaks about the veil. Let's back up. Let's back up to chapter 32. And as we think about our verses, and I was just thinking about, how do we get to this point? How do we get to this point? Build us an idol. How do we get to the point of the Levites having to strap on their sword and go in and start killing people? How do we get to this point? Well, one of the things we can say is there is a serious lack of leadership. There should have been leadership. And I'm not talking about the Lord, and I'm not talking about Moses. I'm talking about Aaron, but I'm not only talking about Aaron. Look back in our passage. Now, Aaron is the one who was most responsible, and I think that's why Moses confronts him about it. But I want you to back up some. We're in chapter 32, but when we back all the way up to chapter 18, it is the account of Jethro's advice. And this is the account where Moses was being overburdened judging Israel, And Jethro's advice, which he says, now, if it's okay with the Lord, do this effectively. And Jethro's advice is you need to appoint people over this. That's what this account is. You shall select from all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covet. This is leadership. And place such over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10. Let them judge the people at all times. Every great matter they'll bring to you, every small matter they themselves will judge. If you do this thing and God so commands, then you'll be able to endure. Moses heeded the voice of his father-in-law and did all that he said. Moses chose able men out of Israel. On and on. They judged people at all the times. Hard cases they brought to Moses. On and on. My question about all that is when you get up to chapter 32, where were all those people at? Where was the leadership? Again, Aaron, but it's not just Aaron. Where is the leadership? This is an absolute mess. And it's an absolute mess because the leaders were not leading. The tail was wagging the dog, as it is. They come to Aaron and they say, do this. And Aaron says, okay. Where's the leadership? Aaron, all the others, where are they at? It's how do we get to this point? That's how you get to this point. It's a hot mess. And it's a hot mess because the leaders weren't leading, frankly. But I think another part another element that may play a part in this, how do you even come up with this idea? Make us a god? Make us gods that shall go before us? How do you get to this point? And I go back to the mixed multitude that came up with them from Egypt. There are a whole lot of people who are not Hebrews. And those people, while I understand why they came up out of Egypt, they prefer not to be destroyed, as all the plagues were in full effect. So in that sense, I understand why they came up out of Egypt, but it's a mixed multitude. They're not Hebrews, they're Egyptians. And as they're Egyptians, they probably brought a lot of their Egyptian ideas with them. And I wonder if it's not just having an effect on Israel. How do you come up with this idea? We don't know what's happened to Moses. Make us gods to go before us. Really? How do you even dream up something like that? Unless you've already been idolatrous in times past. So, I just wonder if that didn't play a part. But looking back at it, I think another element that is happening is a lack of fear. And I want you to see something, because it's real easy. Well, okay, it's real easy to say Moses comes down the mountain and he breaks the tablets. And one may be tempted to think, oh, well, Moses had been up on the mountain this whole time and the people didn't know what was going on. No, Moses has gone up and down this mountain already. Moses has had some interaction with the people. And to illustrate that, back up to chapter 20. Look in chapter 20. The 10 Commandments are given in chapter 20. Verse 18, now all the people witnessed the thunderings, the lightning flashes, the sound of the trumpet, and the mountain smoking, and when the people saw it, they trembled and stood afar off. Then they said to Moses, so Moses is with them at this point, they say to Moses, you speak with us, and we will hear, but let not God speak with us, lest we die. And Moses said to the people, do not fear, for God has come to test you, that his fear may be before you, so that you may not sin. So the people stood afar off, but Moses drew near the thick darkness where God was. Moses is saying, God has come to test you. Look in chapter 24. Now he said to Moses, the Lord said to Moses, come up to the Lord, you and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. Again, That's our previous point. Where were they at? Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come near. Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord and all the judgments, and all the people answered with the golden calf is chapter 32. We're looking at chapter 24. The people answered with one voice all the words which the Lord has said we will do. Moses wrote all the words of the Lord, and he rose early in the morning and built an altar at the foot of the mountain, 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. Where is that again? I want to get that doohickey off of there. When Aaron builds an altar in chapter 32, Moses had already built an altar at the foot of the mountain. Here, in this chapter, though, he sent young men of the children of Israel who offered burnt offerings, sacrificed peace offerings. Moses took half the blood, put it in basins, the book of the covenant, read it in the hearing of the people. Again, this is chapter 24. They said, all that the Lord has said we will do and be obedient. Moses took the blood, sprinkled it on the people. He's flinging blood on the people, on the book, this is the blood of the covenant which the Lord has made with you according to all these words. Moses goes up, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, 70 of the elders of Israel, and they saw the God of Israel. They saw all this. Again, back to chapter 20. Moses says, God has come to test you. Do not fear, for God has come to test you, and that his fear may be before you, so that you may not sin. They say to Moses, you speak with us, and we will hear, but let not God speak with us, lest we die. It seems to me when you come back up to chapter 32, how do we get to this point? There is a serious lack of leadership. I wonder if the mixed multitude did not have an effect, but also, obviously, there is a serious lack of godly fear. How do we get to the point where Moses burns the idol, crushes it into powder, scatters it on the water, and says, drink, and then draws a line in the sand and says, whoever's on the Lord's side, you better get over here, and it's only the sons of Levi that come over? How could you be so stiff-necked? How could you get to this point that it's such a hot mess that this is happening? Where's the leadership? What is the mixed multitude saying? And why is there is such a lack of fear? There is such a lack of fear. To go from them saying, all that the Lord has said we will do, and Moses writing in the book the commandments that had already been given, affirming the covenant, and now we're here? An absolute lack of fear. An absolute lack of godly fear. When things are a mess, in today's day and age, it's usually because of a lack of leadership. It's usually because of the world's effect on us, and it's usually because of a lack of godly fear. They all come into play. Nothing new under the sun. So, hopefully this brief look into Exodus 32 through 34, hope it's been helpful for you. Appreciate you following along with us as we go through day by day. Hope you tune in for our next study. Thanks for being with us today.